How's your internet?
Not really.
It's for four. Did it do it?
That's what I
I was talking to the story. The guy told us about him using all the Venetian blinds on his campus. We were politics, you know?
You probably got into that.
She did. It's easy to spill.
Wow, what a civilized and polite audience. A hush fell over the room, and I didn't know more than just walk up to the podium. It's extraordinary. Nobody has ever this nice to me. Welcome, good evening, and thanks so much for being here. I am Alan Bliss. I'm CEO of the Jacksonville Historical Society. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this evening's April 2022 Speaker Series program. The Jacksonville Historical Society is in its 93rd year, founded in 1929 by a diverse group of over 200 citizens who care about the city's past. We stand today on their shoulders and on decades of work that the Society's many leaders and volunteers have done since then. And this year, we're particularly honored to be hosting Jacksonville's commemoration of the city's bicentennial. The city's founding date is measured from June 15th, 1822, and we are hosting a day-long community festival on June 11th, 2022. Stay tuned for more information about that, and to learn more about the bicentennial, visit our website, www.jax200.org, JAX200. Jacksonville is a sprawling place, physically, socially, culturally, psychically, spiritually, any other way you want to measure it. And with all due respect to our neighbors up and down Florida's First Coast, I argue that Jacksonville has more and more interesting history in its little finger than any other place in Florida. And it is our duty and our privilege to be the stewards of that storytelling and preservation. Our mission is to strengthen citizenship by engaging and educating Jacksonville's people about their history through preserving and sharing the evidence of the city's past and advocating the value of historic preservation. Events such as this are possible because of leaders such as our members of the board of directors, our staff and volunteers, and would everyone who is a board member, staff member, or volunteer please stand up, or if you're already on your feet, raise your hand to be recognized. Thanks very much to them. The JHS also receives support from the City of Jacksonville, the Cultural Council of Greater Jacksonville, and generous donors such as the Dolores Bar Weaver Fund, the Henry and Ruth Gooding Foundation, corporate partners such as ViStar Credit Union, the Haskell Company, the St. John's River Bar Pilots Association, Crowley Maritime, the Marks Gray Law Firm, and many others. And this particular speaker series is underwritten by Retina Associates, Drs. Mansoor, Mughal, and Fred Lambrou. We also depend on the support of members. I hope, like many of you, the JHS offers several levels of membership, which include meaningful benefits, and if Jacksonville matters to you, then we earnestly ask for your support and engagement as a member. And to learn more about the benefits of membership, we have membership applications available at the welcome table, and you can visit us on our website at jaxhistory.org. Jacksonville consists of many, many stories, and none of them are more complicated and interesting and surprising than its music history. And music history and music heritage has become a particular project of the Jacksonville Historical Society in this third decade that we're in now of the 21st century. We are crafting a project to establish a music history museum on our historic campus, 2 blocks to the west of this facility at the corner of Palmetto Street and Mughal Street. That has been a project that has fought against a bit of a headwind during the pandemic, but that's given us an opportunity to be more deliberate and strategic about positioning and executing that. And if tonight's program interests you, then stay tuned for more to come from the Jacksonville Historical Society because we have great ambitions for executing on that. It matters because it's so interesting. It matters because it is a distinct set of stories that relate to this city. Every city, I think, Ed, maybe you agree, every city has its music history story, but every one is unique and distinctive to that place. And Jacksonville's is particularly vivid, colorful, rich, and diverse, and its value isn't just limited to that. At a time when the people of this city and this nation often seem divided against each other in so many ways, in so many levels, when we seem to work so hard to separate ourselves and identify ourselves by what we believe and value, we think that music and music history offers a way to cut across those boundaries and to allow us all to get back in touch with our common human heartbeat. That's part of the value of what we're about. And I know a few voices in Jacksonville that are more ardent and informed advocates for that kind of historic storytelling than our program presenter tonight, Eddy Cotton. Eddy, as he is sometimes known, has a background that is also complicated and diverse and rich, and I'll just touch on a few of the high points. From 1994 to 1997, he was the owner of Blue Moon Music Store and Teaching Studios, a vintage guitar boutique with multi-instrumental instruction. From 1987 to 2004, he was the band leader and manager and guitarist for Pretty Boy Floyd, a regional touring ensemble that employed numerous college jazz students and notable professional musicians. Career performances included the 1996 Olympics, the 2002 Django Fest Northwest, numerous appearances at the Jacksonville Jazz Festival, Spring in the Blues, and Dancing in the Streets. From 2004 to 2009, he was a featured performer with the Riverside Fine Arts Series, where he designed and performed the K-12 curriculum teaching the importance of folk music as American history. From 2007 to 2009, he was the featured performer for Blues in the Schools, and also designed and performed the K-12 curriculum teaching the importance of blues music in American history through a grant from George's Music. He has been an active participant at the Florida Folk Festival since 2007, performing workshops on blues and jazz and performances of original and traditional music. He has acquired and devoted musical instruments to local charities and the Havana School of Music in Havana, Cuba. He has organized and assisted with numerous concert series around North Florida, including festivals and events with the city of Jacksonville. I have told you many good things about Eddy. I've saved some of the very best for last. He has raised beautiful and intelligent daughters. I know that because he brought them to a couple of classes that he took with me at the University of North Florida. They acquitted themselves better than almost any of the actual university students in the classroom. And the very best, of course, is that he holds a degree, yes, in history from the University of North Florida. Go Ospreys. Welcome, Eddy Cotton, and thank you.
I don't know how to follow an act like that.
You're on.
Just play.
All right, just sing along with me. Some glad morning when this light is over by. land on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Just a more weary days and neck end. Thank you. I want to make sure you're aware. Just a few more weary days and then I'll fly away to that land where joy will never end. I'll fly away. I'll fly away. Oh, glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. When the shadows of this world grow old, fly like a bird from the prison bars of flown. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Oh, I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. When I'm gone, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. I hope I stayed in tune as well. I understand this day is of religious significance. I was raised Baptist, so we didn't do all that stuff. You didn't have holidays. This is an old guitar, and I beat on it. I'm a little unhappy with it. So I want to talk about guitars, and I want to talk about Jacksonville, and I want to talk about history and all that stuff, but mostly I just want to play. And so if you will allow me, I'm going to play another gospel tune because my introduction to music was in the church, of course. You had Hee Haw and Lawrence Welk on TV and stuff. The only access to actual talking to people that played music, talking to Miss Julie that played the organ, and her mom, Miss Sandy, who played the piano, and every once in a while there was this couple who would come by for fifth Sunday night service. Anybody else here do fifth Sunday night service? You know what that is? So you give the preacher the night off, and they just do a music thing. So fifth Sunday night, and there was this dude looked like Slim Whitman, and his wife looked like June Carter, Pentecostal hairdo, and they would come in, and she would play this spangly accordion, and he had an old Gretsch. Those orange Gretches with the brand on it. And the end result of this was people would gather at my house to have coffee and cake. I was a little kid, and there was this one old dude that lived around the corner from us, Mr. Lee, and he would always have his coffee and his cake, and he would go, I didn't know you could make the electric sound good. And it turned out he had an electric guitar, but it never sounded good, because every time he'd go to plug it into his Magnavox console stereo, he'd be leaning over the speaker and it would feed back. This guitar just always sounds bad. So he would let me come over and play it on Sunday afternoons, and I would, but I couldn't play any rock and roll, and he'd like nap in his straddle lounger, and I'd try to whip out a little cow scratch beer or something. He'd go, I hear that. But so I guess I'm going to do this one for him, for Ross and Lee, and for my folks, and for any of you that, it touches your heart. All right. If I start to get weepy, just... I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the rose, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the song of God disclosing, and He walks with me, and He talks with me, and tells me I am His own, and the joy we share as we tarry there on earth is ever known. He speaks, the sound of His voice is so sweet, birds hush their singing, and the melody that He brings to me, the Son of God is bringing, and He walks with me, and He talks with me, and tells me I am His own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other ever known. I'd stay in the garden with Him, though the night around me be foul, but He bids me go, the voice I know, the Son of God is calling, and He walks with me, and He talks with me, and tells me I am His own, and the joy we share as we take rhythm none other has ever known. And the joy we share as we take rhythm none other has ever known. Now we got that out of the way, I guess I gotta play some blues. So, quickly, let me give you a rundown of what I have brought with me in guitars. I brought a lot of transitional guitars. All of these are working musicians' guitars. These are not vintage, pristine guitars. These are guitars that belong to musicians, that I've gigged with, that many of them came to me in pieces and had to be put back together or fixed in one way or another. Let's see, the oldest is the Old National. We'll start with this one. So before electric guitar, the struggle for guitar was always volume. Anything's louder than guitar. So various methods were devised to make guitars louder. The biggest one prior to electrification, until the Dopier brothers came along, was arching the top. And this came in several different forms. This is a pressed arched top. If you look at it, it's not flat. So you hear people talk about, oh, you play a flat top guitar. And if you look at this, it's bowed. So what they do is they take a piece of wood and they jam it down on top of the mold with steam and force it into the shape and then glue it down. And it's got all this pent up, I don't know, energy or something. So then you've got your strings across it and all the sound comes off the top, not through the holes. The holes are actually there pretty much to vent, because if it was closed, it would explode if it got hot, or it would collapse if it got cold. So you don't have hollow guitars made from thin wood that don't have holes in them for that very reason. The sound doesn't really come out of the hole as much as it just comes off the top, is what I'm trying to get across to you. So, increased surface area plus the pressure. There you go. Now, another form of an arch top. You may have heard of Django Reinhardt. Raise your hand if you've heard of Django Reinhardt. Raise your hand if you can spell it. Good. Can you help the others with a Google search for later?
Yes.
Otherwise, you end up with parts. So this again is an arched top, but it starts as a flat top, and then they put it on arched braces and force it down. Also, greater surface area, more pressure makes the sound jump out. So this was also very loud acoustic guitar compared to standard acoustic guitars. Then the Dopier brothers come along. You've heard the term dobro, right? That's short for Dopier brothers. They were classics. They were entrepreneurs, and they had absolutely no qualms about getting a bunch of patents going, making a really successful business, and then selling it when they came up with a better design, and then going directly into competition with the guy they just sold their company to. They did it 3 times. This is a National, which was their first company. And they sold National, and they have the Dobro and the Regal. This is classic, what you would call blues guitar. The cool thing about it, you could travel anywhere with it in any kind of weather, because it's made out of metal. It's just painted to look like wood. They made a lot of them in shiny chrome and nickel and brass and beautiful instruments. This one was painted with what they call a piano finish, so it's painted to look like wood. Inside is a spun aluminum cone that looks like an inverted speaker. It's about 9.5 inches, and it works kind of the way a speaker does. The strings go across the bridge that's on top of it, it pushes the sound down into it, and then everything comes out through the holes. Unlike the acoustic guitar when this one comes off the top. It doesn't come off the top on this. Anyway, Jacksonville tie to this. Blind Blake, arguably the finest Piedmont picker in the world ever, was from Jacksonville. Played here, lived on Stonewall Street, traveled back and forth, recorded 80-something records. WCS now, right? Yeah, Google. Coming up in the time that I did, I'm 60. When I was in high school, I started getting into blues, and you couldn't get Blind Blake. You couldn't get Robert Johnson. If you were lucky, you could get B.B. King, Bobby Blue Bland, but all those old records were not being produced. So unless you found the 78, or you knew somebody who had one of the vinyl albums that they put out and you could snag a cassette, you didn't get to find that stuff. And I was lucky enough to get a job at WJCT, and they had a library, and I had, enough money to buy a box of TDK 90-minute cassette tapes. And when I worked my shift, I would just go into the library and just pull stuff out and tape it like crazy. So I had stacks of tapes. And all that is just to tell you that we live in a period of time when the greatest music that's been produced throughout history is available. You can go find it, and that's such a blessing, because it wasn't there when I was a young man coming up, and I had to, dig a lot harder to find it. So you got lots of young people playing lots of cool stuff, and that's cool. So anyway, Blind Blake. I play this tune called, this is called Police Dog Blues. It's hard. It's not easy. I defy you to come up and play it. I'll let her be. I guess I'll ramble, I guess I'll let her be. For she sets that police dog on me. His style was groundbreaking, and today it sounds quaint and everything, but it was groundbreaking because most Piedmont blues has a straight 4 on the floor, and Blake would go. You get that little skip beat in there. And that sounds like nothing now, but it had not been recorded before, and that's what made it, more danceable, more enjoyable, breaks it up a little bit instead of, and I'm not disparaging any of the other Piedmont players because they're all wonderful. I absolutely love them, but Blake was just something else. He played like a piano player. He played with a hard left hand like a piano player, except he was doing it on guitar. So he's right hand. But anyway, lost to the ages until digital, brought his stuff back. So transitions I was talking about. This was the loudest. This is 1936. So this was the loudest production model guitar available until the late 1936 when Gibson introduced the electric Spanish 150, which was a guitar and amp set, and it was made famous by Charlie Christian, a jazz guitarist. Brought electric guitar as a solo instrument into the forefront in jazz in the 30s, which is a pretty early time to be doing that. There's a large gap there where electric guitar was kind of being figured out, and then country music really picked it up. And I'm going to get to my favorite country guitar player in a minute because he also lived in the Jacksonville area. His name's Hank Garland. And you may not know Hank Garland, but I guarantee you've heard of Hank Garland because he played some of the most famous guitar work behind some of the most famous people. And you don't even know it. You just be sitting there listening to a song, and then you find yourself singing along with this little line that's not the vocal. Oh no, that's Hank playing guitar. Don't talk about transitions. This guitar, and I was just talking to Dan Costa, and another person, who's the other guy at a country and western. There's somebody else in here. Dan has one. Is it you, Dad?
Film model.
Yeah. So this guitar was called the Country and Western until 1956. They still made the Country and Western in '56, but Elvis had it, and so they renamed this guitar the J50. And this was a Country and Western, but the kids nowadays they don't want a Country and Western guitar. They need something that sounds like a jet plane. So same guitar. 1955 is when this guitar is from. This particular design was preferred by songwriters from Dylan, Bruce Springsteen. They play J45s and J50s. Just a brilliant design. Sounds sweet. It's not loud. You show up at a bluegrass jam with one of these, you're going to end up playing G chords all night. So, that's where Martin comes in. But beautiful, beautiful guitar nonetheless. And we'll play another Blind Lake song on it. called Chunky Man Blues. Gone to the river, gonna take me a great big jump. Gone to the river, gonna take me a great big jump. I used to be a wise man, a woman made me a chump. Ain't funny how hard a man can fall. Lord, ain't it funny how hard a man can fall. When he gets to thinking one woman has got it all. I went down, walked around the railroad track. I went down, walked around the railroad track. And I turned right around and I begged her to take me back. I feel like going for it. Anybody want to go to Statesboro? Yeah. Let's go. Blind Blake is my favorite. My second favorite is Blind Willie McDowell. Mitch was showing me a picture of right where Blind Blake used to live, how he could walk straight down the street and just get on the train. He could stay whenever he wanted. Right down by the central station. What was it? Oh, yeah. Well, mama, turn your lamp down low. Well, mama, turn your lamp down low. Got a lot of nerve, turn your papa away from your door. I love me a gal who's the sweetest gal I'd ever seen. I love me a gal who's the sweetest gal I'd ever seen. I treat her like a queen, she treats me like a doggone king. Sister, tell your brother, brother, tell your auntie, auntie, tell your uncle, uncle, tell your cousin, cousin, tell your friend when you're going to the country. Mama, don't you want to go? I might take you, I might take one or two more. You're a mighty mean woman to treat your man this way. Mighty mean woman to treat your man this way. When I leave, I ain't coming back away. Well, the gate left span and he would not stop. You should have seen the final when he got the boy all high. He said, reach over mama, hand me my traveling shoes. You got to know by now that I got some Statesboro blues. Called my mama, had him, and my sister had him, my brother had him, and my daddy up and died with him when I woke up with the worry blues. I looked down on the corner and see grandma had them too. Well, she wouldn't cook me no dinner, wouldn't make me no breakfast. She took my clothes and she threw them outdoors. I believe that woman was trying to tell me it was time to go. She had the nerve to ask me could a matchbox hold my clothes. got a lot of nerve to turn your papa away from your door. Got a lot of nerve to turn your papa away from your door. All right, questions? Anyone?
My guitar doesn't sound like that.
You know, Dan, it does. It sounds just like it. The problem is you're sitting behind me. See, I'm sitting behind you. It doesn't sound like it to me. It sounds good to you. Yes, ma'am.
So this is just a Statesboro Blues copy that the Allman Brothers did?
Well, it's based on, Allman Brothers based on the same tune. Yeah, they did that da-da-da-da-dum thing. And they actually got that from Taj Mahal and Ry Cooder and a group called the Little Villages that did it. And the Allman Brothers were not at all opposed to borrowing from wherever they could get it from.
Right.
As all musicians are. I mean, the best way to learn guitar is to compliment a guitar player. He'll show you everything. You know, I do it all the time. That's how I met Daryl. Hey man, you're really good. Show me that. I do that all the time. I still do it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you mentioned Django Reinhardt earlier. Could you tell us a little bit about what makes him so special in the history of guitar? And also, I've seen you play before. I was wondering if you could just show off for a minute or two. Show us how fast you really get on one of those things.
No, I'm really sorry. I told you you could ask a question. Yeah, I will. Okay, so Django. No connection to Jacksonville other than the fact that this kid and a couple of other kids at Wolfson liberated a Django Reinhardt record from the downtown library and wore that thing slap out. Django Reinhardt was a Romany gypsy. He was an adequate musician, and then he was in a fire. His caravan caught fire. His wife made celluloid flowers, and a candle got knocked over. He rescued his wife and was burned seriously, lost most of the use of these two fingers on his fretting hand. In his recovery and depression, his brother, Joseph, brought his guitar to the hospital and said, "You need to play." Mm-hmm. And he went from being a guy that was, a musician to becoming one of the most amazing guitar players in the history of, amazing musicians in the history of music, overcoming his handicap. So he played with these two fingers and limited use of these fingers for chording only. So everything he did, all of his fast runs and stuff, and no, I can't play like Django. Yes, I would love to, and yes, I have gone and sat in gypsy camps and watched these cats play. I'll tell you about my first experience with gypsy jazz, seeing it play. I was in Paris, and I went specifically to Plaza Vosges to see this group that was known to play on the street there. They're called Minor Swing. Sammy Desat and Ramon Galen. Very nice young men. And started chatting with them in broken French and broken English. And just, oh my God, you have to teach me. I'm here for 4 days. You have to teach me. And he says, no, I can't teach you. But let me take you to meet some guys that can teach you. And so he says, come to my gig tonight, and then I will take you after the gig. And so I went to his gig and watched him. I'm still like, you gotta teach me. Oh my God, these guys are amazing. He takes me to this antique store. I don't know if you've ever been to a Parisian antique store, but things start at 500 years old, okay? There's about 5 times as many people as there are in here. Lots of breakable stuff, and a bunch of guys up at the front banging out Django, just like I heard it on the record when I was in high school. I was 30, and I started weeping uncontrollably because for the first, I'm starting to get choked up thinking about it, because for the first time, what had seemed impossible to my ear was happening in front of my eyes, and I could not grasp it, but I could grasp that it could be grasped. You know what I mean? It's like, I wasn't there yet. It was years before I got even close to that. But the best part was I'm standing there and I'm like starting to shake and I've got tears rolling down my face. And this guy that I just met him that afternoon. He puts his arm around me and he goes, I know. And that started me on this journey chasing Django's ghost. And yeah, so let me play you one of his compositions. This is called Nuage. It means clouds. And no, I will not play it later. friendships by driving people crazy, noodling around with that stuff. Just can't imagine. So when my wife met my best friend's wife, the first thing I talked about was, does he just sit around and go, diddly, diddly? Yeah, diddly, diddly, all the time. Same diddly? Yeah, same diddly. So, anyway, again, pre-electric. This guitar was designed by a guy named Mario Macaferi, who was really into plastic and decided to quit making guitars after he discovered he could make saxophone reeds out of plastic for the army. He started making guitars out of plastic. And so those funky little guitars you used to see like in the, you know what, the molded plastic guitars? Yeah, same guy. Yeah. So any more questions about Django? Go look him up. I'm not kidding. Google that. Google Robin Nolan. Google Fappy Laffertine. There's a million of these guys out there. Not a million, there's about 100.
Eddie?
Oh, yeah. Well, Eddie's. I'm talking about contemporary guys. Eddy Lang was a precursor to Django. So Django had the same kind of moment that I had when I first heard gypsy jazz when he heard Louis Armstrong. So there's a story that in his biography about the first time he heard Louis Armstrong on a 78 record, that he made the guy play it over and over and over and over until the guy finally kicked him out of his place because it was driving him crazy, because he'd never heard it before. And so much of what I think makes a musician jump out is when they get hooked on something that they've never heard before, and they find a way. If they can't do it, they find a way to do it. They don't just embrace it, they embody it. So I can honestly say that from Mr. Lee let me play his guitar, in his living room on Sunday afternoons, was that hook for me. I didn't just embrace it, I became it. I had to play. Took my guitar to school with me, to Wolfson, every day. Put it in the AV room, AV nerd. Hardwired it to an old tube record player and sat in the AV room and played. To this day, I carry my guitar with me and I play on my lunch break. You're welcome to join me. Sometimes people do. It's great. So anyway, back to history. Besides why not? Built this guitar, one on the ground here. The neck came from a newel post from a building they were tearing down downtown. It's mahogany, it's 150-year-old mahogany. Body's from a 70-year-old piece of mahogany that was supposed to be part of a boat, but somebody pulled it out to make a guitar and never made it. And when they gave it to me, well, they didn't give it to me, they brought it into work to sell it. Or to eco relics, we do a lot of reclaim stuff. I said, it's just not fair that that guitar's been waiting inside that piece of wood for 70 years. So I got it and I took it to a friend who built it. It's a copy of a Telecaster, Theo Fender's first solo body electric guitar. Still perfect design. How do you make a perfect guitar? You get a guy who doesn't play but understands the design. You get him to talk to guitar players. And that's how that worked out. So, Jacksonville music history, man. Wow. Let's just talk about Elvis, not Costello. Although I love Elvis Costello. I mentioned Hank Garland. You know the song "I Fall to Pieces" by the Batsy Line?
Absolutely.
What's the part that catches you though? I fall to pieces. Ding-a-da-ding-a-da-ding. That's Hank Garland. Hank Garland, there's 100 examples like that of quintessential things, but he was known for this one particular thing. that Rolling Stone author called the 7 most important notes in rock and roll. And it's the opening to Little Sister by Elvis Presley.
Got somebody new. Well, she's mean and evil like a little old weasel. I'm trying my luck on you. Little sister, don't you? Little sister, don't you? Little sister, don't you kiss me once or twice and say it's a nice line. Little sister, don't you do Little sister, don't you? Little sister, don't you? Little sister, don't you kiss me once or twice? Say it's very nice and right. Little sister, don't you do what your big sister done? Little sister, don't you do what your big sister done? Everybody's an Elvis fan. So I'm going to mention another group that's from Jacksonville, and I'm going to get the national back out. And any other questions? Yeah.
What about women musicians? I mean, women guitarists that you know.
That I'm impressed with, or that I know of,
I don't
or
want to sing a woman's voice, but
no, I'm not real good at that. I used to do a really good Celine Dion. There are some fabulous women's voices out there. Proud to say that my daughter is one of them. She's a singer-songwriter in Portland. Today, right now, one of the students of Ron Johnson, who's a local teacher, who's a blind Blake expert, just won International Blues Award. Her name is Joanna Connor. She's out of Chicago. I'm a huge Sister Rosetta Tharpe fan. I think she's just amazing.
Elizabeth Cotton.
I love Elizabeth Cotton. No relation. But yeah, I mean, golly, man, she's amazing. And again, with the Piedmont, 4 on the floor, so she drives. Freight train? Yeah, define freight train. The way she plays it sounds like a freight train. It's perfect. There weren't as many female musicians recorded as men, of course, back then. But there were lots of singers who sang along with, like Lambrou, you can tell, had a female singer, Blind Blake did some stuff with a female singer. And it's sad that they're so underrepresented, because I'm sure they were out there.
Leona Wilson was local. She recorded with Blake.
Yeah.
Street Blues.
And I'm trying to remember the name of it. There's a bottleneck slide player that there's one record of that I have on a bottleneck slide compilation called The Voice of the Blues, and it's amazing. And she plays lap style with a razor, and it's just haunting. It's like on par with Blind Willie Johnson, but I can't for the life of me remember her name. ashamed I can't. Yeah, no, that's it. That's all I got. Sorry. I wish I had more. I think that women in music today are moving the needle, and it's really great to see. There's some amazing musicians out there, but it's a different world than it was back then. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to a lot of politics and a lot of, we have, this town has a funny history of being, really redneck sometimes and trying to be really cool and all this. One step forward, 2 steps back, and that kind of stuff. So I'm not even going to tell you who this is by. Oh, I'll give you a hint. It's not Limp Bizkit. Too much money they spend on the moon. Till they make it right, I hope they just don't sleep at night. I hope they make some changes. Have you ever been down to the ghetto? Have you ever spent the night alone? Don't know what I mean. I wish you could stand up and scream, 'cause there's things going on you don't know.
Yeah, we're both Blake fans. I was going to do another one called Stonewall Street Blues. Has a lot of local significance. It's interesting to know in the research that I've done on Blind Blake, he lived on Stonewall Street in Brooklyn in 1926, which happens to be when he recorded it. He wrote and recorded Stonewall Street Blues for Paramount Records in Chicago. Stonewall, where he lived, was Stonewall and Park on the corner there where all these condos and lofts and things are going up now. But it's a vacant lot now, but when I stood in it and sort of breathed it all in, I realized, oh wow, he wasn't actually blind. He would have just had to just grab the rail of the viaduct there and just walk his way over to the train and catch it to Chicago, where he did most of his recording, actually all of his recording. So it was interesting to see how it sort of played out. He lived on Stonewall Street in 26. He wrote and recorded it in 26 in Chicago. What I thought was most interesting was he's listed in the city directories as living with a girl named Annie. She just might be the Stonewall Street girl. So now we know. So this is Stonewall Street Blues. My Stonewall Street girl, oh, makes me feel this way. She called me in the morning, you call me late at night. You call me in the morning, call me late at night. You say that you love me, but you sure don't treat me right. I got the blues so bad, I feel it with my natural hand. I got the blues so bad, I feel it with my natural hand. You know I've been your dog ever since I've been your man. I'm gonna catch me a freight train, ride until it stops. I'm gonna catch me that freight train, ride until it stops. I'm tired of being around here and being your stumbling block. Tired of being around here and being your stumbling block. Thank you.
The very best part about playing music is two girls, two people, and or more, 3, 4, 5, can just talk about it and go, hey man, hey, let's play, and that's the best part. It brings people together. Not just musicians, of course. You guys are all here, it's more you than all of us, but that's the best part about it.
Historical Society Archivist Mitch Heyman. Thanks to Ed Cotton, talent and teaching. And we've just barely scratched the surface of this city's fascinating music history. It would be a help to us if you would give us some feedback on this evening's program with the surveys that we placed on your seats. And I'm sure that Eddie will be around a bit to answer any questions. Maybe I'm speaking too boldly, but he's pretty generous. Thanks to every one of you for being with us this evening. We're grateful for your engagement and participation. See you at our upcoming events. Thank you.